Hello again and welcome back to the golden age of DC Comics 365 days as I go through my well-loved coffee table book. What goes better with a coffee table book and at your coffee table with friends? Some coffee. Grab a cup. Pull on up to the coffee table. We're going to talk about comic books for a few minutes. We're going to talk about comic books for a few minutes every day for the rest of the year. We really are. This is a well-loved, well-read coffee table book given to me by one of my best friends about 2 decades ago. And it's served my coffee table ever since. And it's been the source of many a good conversation. And I thought I'd bring that here to my YouTube channel because I love talking about comic books. And if you love talking about comic books, you have tuned in to the right time and right place. And let's get to it. So let's flip to today and the golden age of DC Comics. The golden age of DC Comics, quite literally, is 1938 to 1955. There were comics before this. Such as Little Abner, Gasoline Alley, Little Orphan Annie. Those were all in the early 1920s in newspaper strips. The Shadow and Dick Tracy both premiered in 1931. But the superhero comic books, as we know them today, that began with Superman in 1938 with Action Comics #1. And speaking of Action Comics, and Siegel and Schuster, who brought us Superman. This comes from Action Comics. Action number 20, released January of 1940. Story by Jerry Siegel, art by Joe Shuster. Yeah! Yep. That's some dude getting shot by a beautiful lady. And it's March 28th. So let's read the blurb. Readers of this comic book might well have been shocked to see Lois Lane blowing someone's brains out, but in fact, that's not actually Lois. It certainly looks like her, but it's not even her evil twin. It's movie star Dolores Winters. This explanation is that cartooning is a form of visual shorthand, and an artist who figures out a method for drawing an attractive woman is inclined to repeat it, so that all his female characters tend to look alike. This one is different, though. The killer isn't really Mrs. Winters either. It's the Ultra-Humanite, a male mad scientist who challenged Superman in 1939 and 1940. Fatally injured, the Fiend orders his underlings to place my mighty brain in her vital young body. An interesting choice. Both brain and body, however, ended up sizzling in the bowels of a volcano. That would actually come in the next issue 21 of Action Comics in 1940. The Ultra-Humanite was an injured person who was confined to a wheelchair, but he had a vast intellect. So he was Superman's first super villain, was the Ultra-Humanite. And then after he died, that made room for the premiere of Lex Luthor. So Lex Luthor, after the death of Ultra-Humanite, was able, that began that archetypical arch nemesis. Did I say that right? Yes, I did. I would know Ultra-Humanite from my Bronze Age upbringing. That Ultra-Humanite was the consciousness of this individual that was transferred over into an albino gorilla. Yeah, so this albino gorilla had a very large head because of the consciousness of Ultra-Humanite was beamed into it, and which perpetuated Ultra-Humanite's life, and so that's the version that I'm aware of from my Bronze Age upbringing. And but yeah, the Ultra Humanite was Superman's first nemesis, and he's been being used ever since. There's a Silver Age version that I'm aware of. That was the albino gorilla body. Then there's the post-crisis version. There is the 1 year later version. Then there is the New 52 version. And yeah, and that's the Ultra Humanite. That is all we have for the Ultra Humanite, and not my favorite bad guy. Yeah, but he is the first Golden Age superhero nemesis. So he's got that much going for him. So yeah, that's all we have for today. We'll make it a short one. It's March the 28th of March. So yeah, just going through the page a day, talking about comic books every day for the rest of the year. So tune in tomorrow at 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Find out what else we've got going on. To see what magical worlds that we are going to land upon in the golden age of DC Comics. And yeah, so the golden age of DC Comics, literally the age of superheroes, began in 1938 and ends in 1955. The Silver Age begins in 1956 and goes until 1970. The Bronze Age goes from 1970 until 1985. And I'd love talking about the ages of comic books. So I'd love to know, what age are we in, and what age did we just leave? Was there an age of comics between 1985 and 2000? I need to look this up. I'm going to look this up right now. I talk about it a lot. I'm always saying, look up this age of comic books. Yeah, age of comics. The modern age of comic books. Okay, they call it the modern age of comic books, which began. Yeah, okay, this is where which began in 85 and continues to the present day. I'd say no. I would say that I would give from 1985 until 2000, which Grant Morrison, Warren Ellis, Mark Millar, just like you had the did they call it the second British invasion? Garth Ennis. We had all this great art like Brian Hitch, John McCrae, Glenn Fabry doing all of those, Steve Dillon, Preacher. I mean, you had Vertigo into a new age of Vertigo. I mean, there was an 80s age of Vertigo, but then there was the 2000s as well, which was a great time to be a comic books fan. I'd say 2000 to 2015 is in itself another era. We could call it the quantum era, or the new golden age. I don't know, but I mean that was such a good stretch of comic books that I was in. But I would say that we are definitely in a new age of comic books. Comic books have changed. Superhero comic books have changed. The marketplace has changed dramatically. So I don't see the modern age of comic books. I'm reading this from the wiki page. The modern age of comic books is a period in the history of American superhero comic books which began in 1985 and continues to the present day. The citations on this: Glossary, Overstreet Comic Books Price Guide, Volume 38 from 2008, and Narrative Advertising Models and Conceptualizations in the Digital Age, Uger Kilnick, Created, Extended. It's from, yeah, these are just the two citations it has. An alternate name for this period is the Dark Age of Comics. I would take a Dark Age of Comics from 85 to 2000, or even call it the Image Age. Because I think that was where the Dark Horse Image Age, perhaps, because that's when those two comic book companies really found their footing. But I would call, for brevity's sake, I call it the image age, because that was probably the most important thing besides Vertigo, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Dark Knight. I mean, Dark Knight and Watchmen, end the Bronze Age. And here we go again, talking about the ages of comic books. I find this a fascinating conversation. I want to hear from you. Leave a comment or a question in the comments, and we'll get to this. We're talking about the ages of comic books. We started in the Golden Age, but what age are we in today? I just can't accept this modern age of comic books. This is like almost 40 years of publication and of continuity and of canon and of reboots and of also cultural shifts. So and changes in the marketplace and changes of distribution of this, and also digital, which is pretty new as well. So what do you think? Tune in, let me know, like and subscribe. I would love to hear from you, and I'd love to be part of your YouTube day. We're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. So tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, and we'll figure out what we got in store tomorrow then. Thank you so much, and good luck, God bless, and have a great day.